Hello all, and welcome to this afternoon's review. It's a very overcast afternoon. It's 2 o'clock, as you can see. My window's open without the curtain, and that's because it's so overcast I can do that, so you can enjoy the view of my chickens grazing as I review this beer. And what beer are we reviewing this afternoon? We are reviewing Beer Lab Hawaii's The Uni, which is part of the Omakase series, apparently, of which I haven't tried any of the others. And it's a series of IPAs. Now, again, I said this in previous reviews on Beer Lab beers, that Beer Lab sort of focuses on experimenting with beers, pushing beers to the limit, trying new things, and never really kind of having a regular rotation or, you know, a standard line of beers. They make a batch of beer and then they move on, which is very brave in a way. And I look forward to going and trying it. Now, this is called the Uni because the Beer Lab Hawaii is founded by 3 friends who went to university together at University of Nevada, even though they're all local boys. Those of you who know Hawaii know that Las Vegas is sort of considered the 9th island of Hawaii, considering how many people from Hawaii have moved to Las Vegas, including several members of my own family. And Beer Lab is also located on University Avenue by the University of Hawaii. Now, this is a double IPA. It's 8.7 ABV. I believe it's one of the hops used in it is Simcoe. I have to try to remember those descriptions by whenever I go to the growler fill place, Three Peaks. And it is a hazy style IPA, which, as you know, is the sort of in thing right now. And this has received sort of mixed reviews online. Not too many reviews online. It's like I said, they do very small batches, and they never really stick to a single beer. As soon as the batch is out, it's out, and they're out trying new other beers. And guys, stop fighting out there. And yeah. So, without further ado, let's go and pour this bad boy out, literally. Now, my growler is a little bit underfilled today because we're having trouble with the filling mechanism, so, you know, it might be a little bit flat because they have the air up at the top there. Whew. Smells like creamsicles. Pouring this into a tulip glass. Here. Yeah, we still got about half of it left. And hazy, more like near opaque here. As you can see, I'm holding it up to sunlight and almost no light is getting through except at the very bottom. It really looks like I poured myself a glass of carbonated yet very thick, fresh squeezed orange juice, including the color. Maybe a little bit lighter than orange juice color. Actually, a hair darker than orange juice color. I'm getting to take into account the lighting here. With the head that's already kind of gone, as you can see. Just a thin lacing of head left. And I gave it a fairly vigorous pour. So not too much carbonation, but like I said, they're having troubles with the growler fill machine, so it had some space there, so it might have burnt off a little bit of the carbonation. That said, still has a very big head. A very big bouquet, sorry. Which is redolent of, honestly, creamsicles, for one. Orange creamsicles. Ozone. Crushed sweet tarts or Smarties. You know those kind of chalky candies, chalky fruit candies. So it has a kind of almost a mineral edge to it. tropical fruits, but more orangey than anything else. Some hints of, actually, some pretty strong aspects of dankness and slight hint of overripeness too. And honestly, a smell of fermentation, really. It definitely has that sort of aspect of, you know, when you leave fruit swipe, which is basically, you know, making alcohol out of fruit juice here in Hawaii, which is what you do if you're shit poor and you live out in the country and you really need to get hammered. It smells basically like tropical fruits have been fermented pretty roughly to make a low grade, something that's going to get you messed up a bit. All in all, despite me saying, you know, fermented kind of overripe smells, it's not unpleasant. It doesn't go and push it all the way over there. It's just sort of reminiscent of it. In the same way, skunky and dank sort of smell notes don't really mean that you're putting your face into a, you know, a skunk's butt. So let's go ahead and have this most hazy IPA I've ever seen or drank in my life. Interestingly, for something that's 8.7 ABV and this hazy, I was expecting a lot thicker mouthfeel. It's not thin by any means, but, you know, it's not, you would expect it to be on the chewy side, but it's not very chewy at all. Very hop forward. In that it's the hop flavors and hop bitterness that kind of come to the front. And what you're left with is a sort of melange of hop flavors around a very orangey, very juicy malt core. That said, it's not overly sweet, to tell the truth. Yes, it is sweet for a double IPA, but it's not very sweet by hazy standards, especially one that looks as hazy as this one. There's a lot of, you know, various hop flavors in there. Definitely leaning more towards the tropical side of the equation, but also having some hints of, you know, pine resin and grapefruit zest, especially in the finish, to kind of help balance out the sweetness. And it's very well balanced in between the malts and the hops, which is quite strange because it looks and smells like it should be unbalanced on the palate, but it's actually fairly well balanced on the palate. Baby, why are you crying? Mama Nugget's right there. The youngest one's got like a busted leg. Well, it's not busted anymore. She still walks with a limp, but she don't like the cold all that much. And all in all, back to the beer. All in all, I'm actually well and truly impressed. I'm probably going to rate this higher than most of the reviewers online did, mainly because to me it comes across as well balanced for the size and style, despite honestly not seeming so at first glance. And it doesn't have the sin that really, you know, one of the two sins that turned me off most double IPAs. And I know it's kind of strange because I go and review so many IPAs, but they're nowhere near my favorite style. It's just, they're easy to get. But back to that, it's neither overly cloyingly sweet or tongue-scorchingly bitter. There's a perfect balance of the sweetness and the bitterness there. So both of them are there in good measure, but when they're balanced, it creates an enjoyable drinking experience where one is not, you know, your palate's not getting destroyed. And I think a lot of people, I don't understand why it's so, why people think that double IPA should be destroying your palate. No, it's supposed to give you an intense sort of flavor experience, but at the same time, you're not supposed to get palate fatigue, you know, a quarter of the way to a single pint. You know what I mean? Again, there's room for improvement. Like I said, all the various hop flavors in the palate are kind of mushed together. There's not very much distinction in between there. And like I said, the nose and the visual, well, the visuals, I suppose that shouldn't be considered a flaw. I mean, hazy IPA, there is no like limit where it says, oh, this is too hazy. So I shouldn't really be drawing a line there with the visual. But in the nose there, you know, it sounds like it should taste unbalanced. So maybe, well, I don't know. I kind of like that orange creamsicle crushed Smarties smell. It definitely, you know, brings a nice contrast up when that bitterness hits there, because there's not very many, you know, lupulin kind of like notes to the lupulin-derived notes to the hop essences of the smell there. But, all in all, even as it warms up, it's staying pretty well balanced. Again, yes, you can tell that's sweet. Yes, you can also tell that it's bitter, but perfect cancellation with each other, which is something I always like. And so, I'm going to actually rate this as not mind-blowing, but a pretty decent, well-made beer. So, Beer Lab Hawaii, the Uni double IPA, hazy style, obviously. A bit odd, as most Beer Lab beers are, but also well-made and drinkable. That's your beer review for tonight, folks, or this afternoon. Cheers.